Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Welcome back to part 4 of winter work on my larch bonsai forest. In the last video, part 3, I did a lot of the major landscape work, and today I'll be doing all that detailed work. So when you bring the camera down close up to the landscape, it looks like a miniature world. It looks, like you're a small person in a giant forest. In part 3, I talked about maybe pruning these bushes up, these moss bushes, into a more triangular form to look more like a coniferous tree rather than a deciduous type bush. I'm going to try that now. It's kind of a bit of a risky decision because they look quite nice the way they are, but I think, if the larch leaves are bare, the only thing that would be green is coniferous trees, and generally they grow in a sort of triangular form. So I'm going to try it. Yeah, a bit of a risky decision, but I'll do it. Here I go. I'll just kind of do it a rounded triangular form at first and see how it looks. If it looks terrible, well, if it looks terrible, I've learned something. And that's what you've got to think in bonsai. You have to kind of take risks sometimes, and even with your trees, some of the hard pruning in that, it's risky business, and if it's successful, it pays off big, and if it's not successful, well, you've learned something. And that's what life's all about, is learning and improving. So I'm just kind of rough pruning them for now. I'm not sure how this is going to look, but maybe somewhere between the rounded form and the conical form will be what I'll end up with today, and maybe I'll modify that in the future. Now, before I get too far on this, I'm just going to prune this one a little bit more triangular, and then I'll step back and see how it's looking, because if it looks terrible, I may want to stop. It doesn't look so bad. It actually kind of gives it a more of a coniferous feel. So I think that's good. Evergreen feel. And yesterday I also talked about these bushes looking kind of like topiary, because that's what they are. And we'll be trying to fix that a bit today, trying to make them a little more irregular and maybe some undercutting in that, just to give them that natural look. And when we're working today, I'll be doing little sections at a time. So kind of zooming in one spot and trying to make it look really good. Like for instance, you can't see much of the root flare on this tree here. So I'm going to have to lower my plateau here to kind of be able to look in at the root base. So details like that, refining. A lot of roots crisscrossing across the surface of the soil here that need to be pruned away. Getting there, getting there. Okay, I'm going to keep going on the bush pruning. Get that moss out of there. It's always a challenge to reach in at these deep in the middle of the forest. You need long tools, long scissors, long tweezers. And this ultra cool turntable helps a lot. You can spin everything around, work from the back, all angles. What did I ever do without this turntable, eh? Adrian made one for Sam, the Aussie bonsai bloke. G'day. Aussie bonsai bloke, yeah. Yeah, so he's got the same, similar turntable, custom made. Now, so we're going to get a more conical form here. And I'm going to try kind of undercutting layers. Sort of like, branches on a coniferous tree. Generally when the tree's young, they grow in whorls, so, there's layers to the structure. So I'll try that at first. Kind of putting some layer lines in. It won't look like a tree, but hopefully it'll kind of suggest a tree. You'll fill in the blanks with your imagination. I think bonsai, a lot of bonsai is like that, you know. You present your trees on display and then your eye kind of sees a familiar thing and it fills in all the missing details. Now I better have another look from the front in case I'm doing something drastically wrong here. Okay, spin it around and have a look from the front. I think it's looking okay. I'm not objecting to the more triangular shape, so we'll keep going. No, it doesn't look odd or anything. Now let's kind of tackle this tree, kind of getting a bit of structure in it. I know this is the back, but I would rather experiment on the back of the bush than the front at first and kind of see how it looks. So a bit of texture in it. Okay, I'm stepping back, having a look at these sort of conical shaped moss bushes, and I think it's an improvement. I think it fits in more with the forest setting, being green like that in winter. Yeah, I'm not minding it, that's for sure. So I'll keep going. Now I'm looking over here. I'm looking at this plateau here. It's a little high here compared to the root base of this tree in the back, so I've got to kind of lower this terrain down. Now there's a few surface roots in there that need removing. I'll give you a close-up of those. So here's a close-up of those roots on the surface down here. I'll keep anything that's kind of radial from the, you know, the trees, but any roots that are like growing from this tree and crisscrossing in front of the trunk of the other tree I'll remove. So yeah, I won't remove the good-looking surface roots, but just the ones that are crisscrossing and look jumbly. I do like in a forest where roots are kind of crisscrossing the path, and we'll get that eventually in here. I want to make sure all my landscaping's correct. You know, got the levels all correct of all these plateaus and stuff before I start letting roots grow across pathways and that, because, you know, as I said, the roots can grow up into the moss, and you can really, if you let the moss grow too thick, it can really change the levels of all your root bases and everything. Mess it all up. There's another rock up here that I didn't even know about. Boy, really finding these rocks, aren't I? So I'm starting to see the flare at the base of this tree now. Just adding some features to this bush or this tree here. Whatever it is. I'm wondering about this plateau here. I'm looking at the base of this larch, and definitely very close to the surface roots. Actually, that's it. We're down to the surface roots there. But it kind of dips down. I have my plateau here, and it kind of dips down to those surface roots. So ideally, I should pull this rock up and lower it a bit. There's the rock is out there. And then I've got to check. I might have to take this little part off here and see what I can do about lowering this all. Just leveling off this plateau here. I have to move that little step there too. So you can see all these roots that are, you know, just fine surface roots. Cut those away. It'll grow lots more this year. Larches really like growing roots, especially if you water them well. Okay, so I'm getting down to a good level to see the roots of that tree. And like I said, that's the important thing, the trees. The landscaping goes around the trees. So there, you can see the base of the tree a lot better now. even though I had to change my landscaping quite a bit. It may work to my advantage because these steps here, they were always maybe a little too noticeable and maybe looked a little artificial, so having them a little lower might help out a bit. I mean, you do get those natural rocky steps in nature, and once they fill in a bit with moss, they do look quite natural. So there's my kind of viewing area into this tree. So I got my leftover steps here. Maybe you can kind of be sort of a rocky face that continues over here. Something like that, maybe. Yeah, that's not bad. No, my pathway still kind of goes nowhere. Unless it kind of comes down here and over there. So if I come up the steps and then come down here and then into this part of the section, or this section of the forest, that could work. There's a rock there that you can kind of hop down on. It is a beautiful day today. I think it's supposed to get up to +6 maybe. It was originally projected +8, but you know, sunny +6. Wow. Sure gives you spring fever. Let's step back and have a look at it all. Yeah, there it is from the front, from the distance. Yeah, it's looking quite good. I'm kind of liking those triangular shaped moss bushes or trees. Yeah. I can see shaping them, you know, into more of a triangular form in the future. We've got to get this bush looking even more triangular. I probably would be better with some straight scissors. Let me try my nice shears here. This rock was up here, and I don't think I need that rock because it kind of blocks the view of that tree. So I think I would be better to integrate that into here, maybe even up here, maybe, I don't know. It's a slightly different color rock, this one, than the others. It's not as gray, it's more of a reddish rock. May not be the most suitable for this planting. I'm going to leave it off to the side, let it dry out a bit in case it does kind of go a gray color, but I don't know. I have a rock back here also that I think could be better positioned somewhere else, and I think this is a better color rock. Yeah. There's that rock. So that would be better, I think. And maybe sunk in here. Looks pretty good. Possibly higher up here. Looks pretty good too. That would be a good place for it, because you know, you step up here, down here. But I would have to sink this in quite a bit. It's a little high right now. But it's got a lot of nice features on this rock, so I think that's where I'll try it. There's a lot of roots in there I've got to cut away to put this rock there. Now, I am looking at this and liking parts of it. Yeah, I think that's looking okay. Especially once it kind of gets moss around it and a bit of soil around it. It'll blend in nicely. And as I've said before, there's no right or wrong in landscaping. You just got to make a landscape that looks right to you, looks natural and appeals to you. That is where, you know, the art of bonsai comes into play, where you make something that appeals to you, not what everyone else tells you.
you've got to like it. It's your trees.
So again, I'm stepping back looking at the landscape. I think it's looking quite good. I'm not sure about that big rock at the top of the stone stairs. That may... Let me try it without. Yeah, I think that's better without it. Yeah, it looks better over there. Yeah, so I'm liking this rock there, actually. Kind of replacing those step rocks I had there, and I think it looks good with a rock kind of in this cliff wall here. And it just so happens to almost fit in there perfectly without any work. Just kind of sinking it in. Yeah, that looks good, having a stone in this kind of face here. Yeah, I like that. Just brushing my pathway off here. I don't think I'm liking the stairs come up, the steps, and then it's kind of got this flat plateau here. And I think that might look better, sort of a V-shaped ravine instead of flat like that. I think we've already got a cliff face on the left-hand side there, so I'm going to try pruning this away. Clear out that ravine there. Have a look here now. Yeah, looking better. I'll spin the forest around and look at that back section, or just kind of work at it from the back here. Nice. Just opening the ravine up at the back here a little bit. Always gives a better viewing. You don't see an abrupt edge to the landscape. It's a little more three-dimensional, I guess. All right, let's go back to the front and check it out. I'm looking at it from the front now and liking some things. Over on the right-hand side, it still looks too heavy over there. I think I've got to make it even lower. Right now, it's, you know, just above the lip of the pot, and I think it needs to be lowered a bit to kind of create a high, medium, and a low point. So I kind of think I need to make sort of almost a bog area there, like a really low-lying area. Kind of equal to the one that's kind of out here. So I'll try that. These roots look good and healthy. I think the larch forest is in for a good growing season this year. It's getting more and more settled in this pot. Now, the one thing I don't like is my ravine here. I don't like the way, I don't know, it's kind of odd looking back there. So I'm going to spin it around and see what's going on. So I've kind of got this triangle point behind here. Not sure if that's a good thing or not. It just looked funny, this slope being constant all the way down. So maybe I've got to break it up here. Get rid of some of this soil here and get a bit of variation to this contour. I think it was that straight line was bothering me. All right, let's see if that's an improvement or not. I think it definitely is. Yeah, that looks much better, having it so it's not so flat there. And I think I can even cut it away a bit at the front here to even make it a little more varied, the surface there. Okay, ravine's looking better. I don't like the fact this slope is straight here. I think I've got to separate the top here. Okay, let's see now. Yeah, that's looking better. I think I've got the gorge quite deep at the back, and I think I've got to kind of bring it through here. So kind of exposing more of the base of this tree. It's kind of lost down in here. I remember at the start of yesterday's video, part 3, I said I wasn't going to add this ravine, but you know, things change. You gotta make the landscape somewhere exciting to explore too. It can't be dull looking. Even in your bonsai trees, you can kind of make, you know, if you have a single tree in a pot, you can kind of make a bit of a landscape underneath it. The suggestion of one, and it makes it more interesting than just flat, boring moss on your planting. You can have a little section with some gravel or something, or make it look realistic, like it's a miniature tree in nature. It doesn't have to look like a mowed lawn. Interesting. Very interesting. I think this is almost like a little stream bed through here. That's what I see. And that's what I'm going to try and make it look like. Maybe there's a little waterfall here or something. Dried up. A mountain spring waterfall. All the snow melts, runs off, and comes down here. I'm standing back looking at the landscape, and I like this kind of stream or waterfall area, but I think it needs to be interconnected with the other low spot, kind of between those two rocks. I think that would look good. And then I'll probably put some like fine gravel or something in that area to look like, you know, a dry stream bed. Yeah, I think that'll look good, and maybe some sand and gravel. Yeah, so let me carve out between those two rocks. So I'm going to interconnect these two low areas. My kind of dry stream bed. Larches do like to grow in kind of some boggy areas. They grow in, you know, the mountain regions too, but they do like their water. I can imagine myself standing on this rock, looking at the water, jumping over from here over to the rock. I'm going to step back again because I'm going to start my detail work soon, like my pathways and all that, if it's all looking good. I've got to, you know, make sure there's nothing that looks bad from the distance. Okay, I'm having a look at it. It looks interesting. It's a landscape you can definitely explore, and your imagination just runs wild. You know, you imagine yourself walking through this forest and exploring it, and I'm sure that's what people will do. I still think I need, right up here at kind of that peak, I need a stone over here. Something there, yeah. Other than that, I'm quite happy with it all. I think the stones are looking good. And I'll work on those moss coniferous trees now in future. I'm a little afraid to prune them back too far at the moment. So I'll let them green up and kind of work on it over the summer. I'm going to try and find a rock for that one area that I just think something's missing there. So, is that a big rock? Well, that's way too big. That's a giant rock. Now, what about some of these rocks up here is where I kind of wanted some. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Kind of in the face of this cliff a bit. It's not too bad there. Kind of. It gives the impression of a rocky cliff, maybe. Maybe. Yeah. I don't know. These stones don't add much weight. They're just very light little stones. But they do make it look like a solid stone kind of mountain here. Or hill. Just trying different things. I did want to straighten my steps out a bit. So I'm going to put a rock underneath there to kind of stabilize it a bit. Yeah, that's looking okay. Kind of adds a little more of a rocky terrain here. And I'm thinking I kind of want to outline this island to maybe a little more here. Okay, I think the details are kind of in place now. Yeah, I may change my mind about these stones, but for now they're not looking too bad. I think it's time to start adding some sand in that, into the pathways. I think I should clean the lens off. I think the forest is at a point now where I can start adding some sand in that, the pathways and maybe this dry river stream. Just kind of adding all the little details that really bring it down to a miniature level, I guess. So I'm going to do that. Now, I've got two colors of sand. I've got a white sand that's an industrial sandblasting sand, and I've got the brown playground sand. And I may want to play around. You know, the dry stream bed I may want like a lighter sand color in there, and maybe the darker sand for the pathways. So we'll try it out. We'll experiment around and see what looks good. I'm going to start with a spoonful of playground sand, and I'll sprinkle that in here and kind of level it out a bit. And that'll be the border, and then I'll kind of pour the lighter sand in the middle, almost like, you know, that's where the water was. And I don't want this to look too cutesy. I have seen some landscapes that just, they don't look natural. They look almost, what's the word? Not cutesy, overdone. Overdone to the point where it's just, you know, where they add blue sand and stuff, and it just looks so artificial that it's sickening. So we want this to look natural. I don't want to add any elements that take away from the look of it all. And it's easy to do, you know, get carried away, you know, too many rocks maybe. And maybe I've already done that. There we are, there's the shoreline. Kind of looks like that, doesn't it? So there's how it looks from the distance. I know the light's getting a little dark in the greenhouse here. It's kind of, again, the day is drawing to an end, but yeah, I like that sand. It really provides a contrast between the green island here and the kind of, you know, I almost imagine a shoreline here or something now. I like that. So a little more sand. I want some up in here. So a little more in the ravine, and I think that'll be it. So right through here. like that, and I'll just kind of spread it around a bit. Rock's a little loose there. Now I'll get the white sand and I'll put that on top and see how that looks. Before I put the white sand down, I'm just going to try a bit of this turfus around the edges, and just sort of like the edges of the stream. Or you often see this in streams, as areas of rocks that just get deposited by waterfalls and that. I've also found some pea gravel that I collected last summer, so I'm going to put a bit of that in here also, just as some bigger rocks. And I probably should have separated by color. Maybe put some of my bigger rocks up front here to kind of give a bit of forced perspective. I was going to add my white sand in the middle, but I can't find it. I think it's buried underneath the snow somewhere out here under a bench, so I'll have to leave that for later. All this work I've done today is just sort of preliminary work, and then as it gets closer to showtime, I'll refine all these details. So I'll go in and, any moss that's not nice and green, I'll replace it with another chunk, and yeah, just, keep looking at it, and as it gets closer to maybe going in a show, I'll refine the landscape, giving it a good look and seeing little things that bug me or I don't like quite so much, and trying to change it around again to, always refining it, I guess is the word. And it's always changing, moss grows and you got to prune it, and the trees grow, and, it can change. It's not a static landscape. And as you can see, I've changed it quite a bit just this weekend. There's still some sun outside here, so I'll bring the forest out into the sun and we'll take a final look at it for this weekend. All right, let's go in and have a look at it. We'll be revisiting this larch forest in spring when the buds are starting to turn green, and I'll give it a good pruning, reducing all this apex and getting it in order for spring growth. That's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.